Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the online series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Yesterday, we used one of the strongest Sun teams running around in the format at the moment, built by Leonardo Bononomi, who is the champion of the global exhibition tournament organized by Pokemon recently. It was an 8-person invitational tournament, and Leonardo is just one of the best players in the world and has been in the Sword and Shield era with some really impressive online finishes. So huge shoutouts to him for the team. Details for the team are in the description below, and yeah, we're just going to play a couple more matches with it today. So thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what's one movie or show that you've watched lately that you have enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section below. Alright, first game of the day, and this is a cool team. It's got Bisharp Cinderace. That's like a throwback to very early Sword and Shield, where you can max Airstream into Assurance. That's cool. Dusclops, Fini, Regieleki, and Calyrex-I Ice Rider. I have to be careful about Instant here because of Defiant. We are max speed Regieleki, so like I could go Regieleki and what's something. Cinderace is really scary. Like I'm actually leaning towards Regieleki plus Charizard because I can like Electro Web into Wildfire with this. Or Volt Switch into Wildfire if they lead like Dusclops, for example. I don't think I bring Venusaur. And then it's like Instant or Umbreon. Umbreon's really good into Calyrex Ice Rider. I don't even know if they bring Calyrex Ice Rider here, truthfully. I'm going to go with Umbreon here because I think Foul Play is really valuable. Like, yes, I'm not bringing Intimidate, but I'm not sure I need the Intimidate here. So, we'll see. Yeah. What's our goal here? Their team is interesting because you have two completely different ways to play it. One is just Trick Room Calyrex Ice, and then the second is the faster mode with Cinderace Bisharp. And I guess the third mode is Regieleki Tapu Fini. Okay. I think I'm okay with this. Like, I think pivoting my Charizard out into Groudon and then just Electro Webbing them feels okay. Yeah, because then, like, if I get Groudon on this next turn, we're already in a really prime position. Can bait out any damage from Regieleki out as well. Venusaur would have been a really nice lead here, but this is an example of my opponent playing Team Preview really well because they're like, oh yeah, what are the odds they're going to bring Venusaur? Probably pretty slim. Mainly because they, I'm staring down a Cinderace in Team Preview as well as a Calyrex Ice Rider. Both of those are quite scary. And I can't really one-shot Cinderace with Venusaur. I could max Quake it, but if they just max Cinderace, then they can survive and then like KO us in return. Oh, that's a disappointing mess, but okay. That's fine. Mainly because I just like getting, like the idea of getting super effective damage on a Fini there is nice. Good play by them though, great Volt Switch. They did not fall into the trap of like targeting Charizard that turn. Which means I actually could have gone like Volt Switch with G-Max Wildfire, which would have been cool. So I suspect Cinderace comes out now from my opponent. If you have it, otherwise, if they're not bringing Cinderace out here, that typically indicates to me that they don't have it. They're taking a while to select, so maybe they didn't bring it. That'd be interesting. I guess you could also just go out on a Calyrex Ice Rider right now. Missing that damage output on Fini is going to hurt later on, I think, because the goal was after Electro Web, like you're in KO range from a Max Quake from Groudon. Huh, they bring Dusclops out. That really makes me think they don't have it. Okay. Did they just call Mind here? Nope, Scald. That looks like Choice Specs damage to me, but I'm not sure. Okay, I'm gonna Volt Switch Fini. That's gotta be Specs, right? I mean, the sun is up. Okay. I'll Volt Switch Precipice Blades and then just get Umbreon out. I can't see that not being Spexed here. Oh, I guess the problem is if Fini's still faster than Groudon here, but we should survive the turn anyway. Wait, we could actually go into Charizard, right? Because, I don't mind going to Umbreon here. Umbreon's really good against both their Regieleki and the potential Calyrex Ice Rider as their fourth. Okay, that's fine. This is the one downside of Groudon when you don't max it, and yeah, that's fine. Like, we've had relatively good fortune in the last couple of days in Series 11, so I don't really want to complain here. Still 3 turns of Misty Terrain. Fini is probably just going to Scald the Groudon slot. I don't have a safe Switch into that at that point, though, so that's the problem. That's a bummer. I shall Snarl and Protect here. Also, like, one other question I have to ask is who I'm maxing in this game at this point. Probably Charizard for the late game sweep. But, like, they still have a Lecky, which is scary. Yeah, the idea is if we, like, knock out the Fini there, it forces them to switch out into their next Pokemon. And that's obviously really good for us. Because you either go into Regieleki, which Umbreon can just Snarl, or you go into Calyrex Ice Rider, which I can just Foul Play. Yeah, they Scald. I think I give up Regieleki right now, right? Because by conserving Groudon, I can get more turns out of Sun in this late game. I will Foul Play here to cover for Calyrex Ice switch in. And switch in Regieleki here. Maybe we survive a Scald now as well. That's another possibility. How else could I have played this game? Given their lead, Venusaur actually would have been very nice, but I didn't feel confident leading Venusaur into this matchup. I could have Thunderbolted Tapu Fini immediately on turn 1, but I don't mind Electro Whipping. Covers for a lot of my bases. And, you know, with this team, like, you have a lot of attacks like are slightly inaccurate, so you're bound to miss a couple here and there, right? Okay, Fini survives, but that's actually good for us, because what we're trying to do right now is just stall out my opponent's Trick Room. Okay, Regieleki survives, which is also very good for us. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. How many turns of Trick Room do they have left? 2. Good. What this means is I can Moonlight here. How many turns of Sun are left? 1. I can Moonlight, and I can protect the Regieleki this turn. The key thing here is not enabling them to get, like, Calyrex Ice and then just, like, sweep with us. Sweep with it, I should say. So you Nightshade all you want, but Umbreon will just heal all of that back up. So I'm very glad I brought Umbreon right now. Over, like, Incineroar. Especially into a Choice Specs Tapu Fini. Okay, beautiful. We're back at full. Oh, nice play. They read into the Protect. Well done. But Umbreon doesn't really care about that. Sunlight fades. Okay. I mean, I almost don't want to knock out Fini in this position, right? I think it's more optimal to play around the Fini. Because here's what I can do. I can Foul Play into Dusclops and Volt Switch it. And what this means is that I'll have Charizard out against Dusclops and Fini, meaning I get a free Wildfire off. I think I like that. They could switch Fini out, of course, or Dusclops out here. I also could go for a Yawn with Umbreon, but they're just going to stay in with both. Okay, it's going to be Nightshade into Umbreon. That's fine. You would think Scald into Regieleki now. It's honestly not bad damage in a Dusclops either. Yeah, okay, so they knock out Regieleki, but now I finally get what I was looking for, which was Charizard in Sun. And getting a Wildfire off to knock out Dusclops, and Fini will faint from the residual. Actually, the only issue is I don't know if I want to switch in Groudon right now. Because I could also just go for Foul Play and Wildfire here. The problem is that I know my opponent has a Regieleki in the back, right? And honestly, what is their fourth going to be? You would think it's Calyrex Ice Rider, because I thought they could have brought out Cinderace earlier if they had that. If it's a Regieleki and Calyrex Ice Rider, that would be ideal, right? Okay, I'm going for a Wildfire. I'm not switching out here. They're staying in with both, which makes sense. It's going to be a really close finish. Because the thing is, let's say it is Regieleki and Calyrex-I as the fourth. If it's Cinderace, by the way, this game is over. Like, they've won, in my opinion. So right now I'm hoping it's not Cinderace. That would be a really big issue for us. Okay, I think this should get the KO. Problem is we're gonna take... Oh, that's so much damage, yeah. I think I still end up just losing to Regieleki, right? Well, if it's Regieleki plus Calyrex Ice Rider, not necessarily. The thing is, do you even max... Would you max Regieleki or would you max Calyrex? Because if you max Calyrex, I can yawn. I just feel like we had the matchup here and I didn't execute it properly, but my opponent led really nicely and also didn't fall into the trap with the Groudon switch in. And obviously we missed like 3 attacks as well, but... Okay, it is Calyrex. Man, this is interesting. Oh, who maxes here? Because the thing is, I can yawn. If I yawn into Regieleki and Calyrex Ice Rider maxes as they attack into Charizard, we actually win the game because then we can just switch Charizard out into Groudon. Sets up the Sun, and then Heat Wave 10 the game. So I see one potential game-winning play here, but they just might max Regieleki instead. If they're not confident in KOing Charizard. I could also go for Snarl, but that could activate a weakness policy on Calyrex. I really don't want to do that. So yeah, I'm going to go for Yawn onto Regieleki and Max Guard. The issue with Yawn is if Regieleki maxes, you set up the electric terrain. So we'll see who maxes here. You can tell by the Pokeball, but I honestly don't remember who came out in which ball. Okay, they max Calyrex. That's good. This keeps us in the game. Oh, you could actually protect Regieleki here as well, I suppose. That'd be risky, though. Okay, they're not protecting. That's good. That gets that? Oh. What a play. And we get crit. That's cool. Huh. I had no idea Regieleki got Rain Dance. That's a really cool tech. That's an awesome tech for Sun. That changes everything because the win con, like I said, was to switch Charizard out into Groudon and then it sets up the Sun. But the thing is now Regieleki could just go for a Rain Dance again. But you can't go for a Rain Dance. Okay, I think it's still fine to foul play and switch out into Groudon, right? If you go for a Rain Dance, that means you're not knocking out Umbreon, which means Umbreon gets a foul play off into your Calyrex. That's a really cool tech. I can't be too sad about this game at the end of the day, in the sense that, like, you know, it would have played out very differently if we didn't miss. My opponent had some really cool techs, and they honestly made some really nice plays as well. Like, they didn't bring the Cinderace, which was actually what I was worried about and tried to cover really hard for. Okay, nice. Get foul play off. That's so much damage. Brilliant. Oh, and they're not weakness policy. That's interesting. Okay. And they Hailstorm and Umbreon. Cool. That just ensures the game. But I think even if there were weakness policy and Rain Dance there, like you either Rain Dance thus changing the weather, but then I get the foul play off. And even if I activate weakness policy, well, Calyrex still takes a ton of damage, right? And I do have Blast Burn. But the question is whether or not Heat Wave would do enough. Because I think it's probably AB Calyrex here. Wait, AB Calyrex? Does that make sense? Makes some sense, but I don't know. This was a crazy game. Unless it's like Regieleki. Like, what are the odds of that? I could still lose, by the way, if I miss with Charizard right now. You know what? If they set up the rain, I could have had an 100% accurate Hurricane. I think Blast Burn and just Blades here is fine. Blast Burn and Heat Wave are the same accuracy, and I want to cover for Assault Vest Calyrex, like actually surviving a Heat Wave here. And we connect, fortunately. Oh my goodness. I did not know Regieleki got access to Rain Dance, though. That's so cool. Like, that's actually a really, really good anti-Sun tech. And that's exactly why they led that plus Fini, right? Because if I go with, like, Groudon plus Charizard, you can just Rain Dance into Spec Scald on turn 1. That is such a cool attack. I absolutely love that from my opponent's end. So this was a very stressful game, but we end up with the win at the end of the day. That's some really cool stuff, though. Like, Cinderace and Bisharp didn't come out, but, like, I played in Team Preview very heavily, just try to beat it. Thankfully, we had Umbreon. Like, oh my goodness, that completely saved us. So that was good. And then, yeah, Rain Dance Regieleki. First time seeing that, and we can actually check their teams. Let's take a look. But what attack. It was AB Calyrex, yeah. So I wanted to go for the Blast Burn instead than Heat Wave, because Zacian is completely useless into my Groudon anyway. There you go. There's Rain Dance. They were max speed as well. Choice Specs Fini, as we said. Max HP, max special attack. Scarf Cinderace. Oh, so it's not even a max option. You would use Coaching in a Calyrex Ice Rider. Or Bisharp. And then you've got Taunt on Bisharp here. What a team. Eviolite, Dusclops, Nightshade Willow, Sohan, Trick Room, no Pain Split, which is interesting. And then AB Calyrex, as we saw. Wow, what a game. I need a breather after this one. But yeah, it goes to show how even one small move can go a long way, right? In the end, like, we still ended up winning, but this is so cool. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this pops up more to beat the Sun teams that are running around, because it gives you such a major advantage. So, yeah, shout out to my opponent, because I didn't even know Regieleki got Rain Dance, and that is such a cool thing to see. So, yeah. Alright, it's going to be Coalossal for this one. I actually haven't seen Coalossal in a while, or since we started Series 11, which has been, what, like a week or so? So, I'm honestly surprised it took this long to run into one, but they've got Dragapult, it's Zacian, Amoonguss, Urshifu, and Landorus. So immediately I'm thinking Groudon's decent across the board here. I have to worry about Will-O-Wisp Dragapult as well as Max Overgrowth from the Coalossal though. So two things to watch out for there. Umbreon can Snarl. I'm really thinking, okay, if my opponent leads like Dragapult plus Coalossal and there's safety goggles on Dragapult. Because one thing we could do is go Venusaur Groudon and just Sleep Powder Dragapult and Precipice Blades. That honestly does not seem like a terrible approach in this one. Like Charizard feels really, really bad into this matchup. Instant's going to be valuable for Zacian. And then Umbreon is the fourth. The other thing is you could lead Umbreon and go for like a Yawn into Coalossal as well. But it feels a little bit too passive to me. I think Coalossal generally matches up really nicely into Sun because Volcalith will one-shot at +2 like Charizard, Incineroar. And you have Max Flare for the Venusaur as well. We could also consider maxing Venusaur here, right, and going for a Max Quake. I just don't know if that's a guaranteed KO into Coalossal if they have bulk, but we'll see. Okay, they do go with Coalossal and Dragapult. So we have a decision to make already on turn 1. Like, one play we can make is just Sleep Powder into Dragapult into Precipice Blades. But the problem is if they are safety goggles on Dragapult, which I feel like is actually a decently common item specifically for this scenario. They also do have a switch into like max. The other thing is like I could max Groudon, right? So like Sleep Powder, Dragapult, max Groudon, and Max Quake. So like we can even survive an Overgrowth, even if they are safety goggles. I don't love max Quaking Cole here, I don't think, because they could just surf into Flare onto Venusaur. Oh, I guess I would get the Max Quake off before they move though, right? I could just Sleep Powder the Coalossal actually instead. Okay. I went for Sleep Powder Precipice Blades. Oh, they're faster. So that's gotta be Scarf Pult then, right? Okay. They also didn't max the Cole, which is really interesting because it implies they're going for Heat Wave here, which I think Groudon should survive just because we have a lot of bulk. Nice play. Okay, yeah, I was not anticipating the Dragapult outspeeding, and Groudon Survives, but barely, so that was not exactly the best turn 1 there. That's the tricky thing with Dragapult, like Scarf, Goggles. You could even run Life Orb as a max option. Like, the really awkward thing now is I just don't have a good max option at this point in the game, right? Like, Groudon was my best bet, as well as Venusaur. So that was really smart of them to not go for a max Flare and rather just go for a Heat Wave. Yep, that's got to be Scarf Pult, right? We hit 290 under Chlorophyll. Knowing it's Scarf Dragapult, then how would I play turn 1 differently? I guess just max Groudon immediately, because now like our best max option is going to be Incineroar. The upside at least is that we know they're Scarfed on the Dragapult. So Dragapult's completely useless for my opponent right now. If you're my opponent, you can bring in Amoonguss, Zacian, Landorus, or Urshifu. I think Landorus makes the most sense, so what I want to do ideally is bring in Umbreon to get a Yawn off into the potential Groudon. Sorry, potential Landorus. They could have even just bring in Zacian. Okay, they did. That's actually a little bit frustrating because it means we actually had an opportunity to bring in Instant and just click Fake Out into Zacian and then max the Groudon to at least get some mileage out of it. Pult should switch out here. And then Zacian can target either of my slots. What do I think their last Pokemon is? Oh, you know what they could do, actually? Oh, this is actually so cool. You can just max Dragapult and then Phantasm, assuming you have it into Groudon, and then just like Sacred Sword into the Umbreon slot. That would be really cool. Okay, I'm actually going to read into that as they're played then and make the switch into Incin. Because I think if I don't cover for this, yeah, they're staying in. I would lose the game immediately. Whereas this at least gives me a shot. Like, especially if they're maxing Dragapult, then at least they don't have a max to play towards in the end game either. But, yeah. I think the tricky thing about the matchup here, and that is the play they're going for here, the tricky thing about the matchup is basically covering for Safety Goggles Dragapult as well as Choice Scarf Dragapult. And Life Orb Dragapult. Like, this is one of the reasons why Dragapult is just so flexible, right? So, yeah. Okay. So let's see. Yep, there's Phantasm. Okay. It's honestly decent damage into Instant still. That was just such a good turn 1 for them, right? Trying to think how I even beat that lead if it's Scarf then. Okay, they go for sub. I'll actually take that, all things considered, because it means you don't get any mileage out of the defense drop immediately, and I actually will get the knockout onto your Maxmon. And Zacian is neutral right now. Seeing sub is also good, because it should confirm that you're not running, like, a, Swords Dance as well. It's still tough to actually deal damage into Zacian. Like, breaking through the sub is going to be troublesome. And we have a defense drop on the Instant, which is also troublesome. They bring out Landorus. Okay, so our best bet is definitely maxing Instant at this point in the game. I think we can also ask ourselves, like, is there any room where we actually max Umbreon? Seems wild. What value would we get out of Max Darkness? Not very much. The reason to max would actually primarily be to max Guard, I think. I'm going to go for Yawn here onto the Landorus. I mean, what are the odds they're Lumberry here? I feel like they were Lum, they would have just led Landorus, right? So I'm down to go for a Yawn here and then switch Instant out into Groudon. We at least managed to call the Dragapult max correctly, but they didn't go all in on that turn anyway, because they didn't actually target the Umbreon slot there, which was interesting. But that sub is a really big deal, because it prevents me from cycling this Fake Out onto it, which is... Oh, and they actually have close combat, okay. Yeah, with the defense drop, that's actually enough for a KO anyway. I could have switched Umbreon out into Groudon instead, but I feel like I had to switch Instant out there. So we'll see what Landorus goes for here. Superpower would be really interesting. Oh, it's special. Okay, that's also not good for us. That should allow them to win the game then. They had a lot of, not crazy tricks here, right? Like Sub on Zacian is not super rare. Scarf on Dragapult isn't that wild either, but all of these, and them being special Landorus, like all of that just adds up to them having a super good matchup. And then close combat on the Zacian as well, rather than a Sacred Sword, meaning that you still knock out the Umbreon there. Man, I'm just thinking, like, how else can I even play with Scarf Dragapult? I think this is just a really, really tough matchup. The best bet would be to, I guess, lead Umbreon turn 1. Like, I was thinking Umbreon Groudon then, maybe. Or if we maxed Groudon immediately on turn 1. Yeah, it's just the fact that they're special as well, meaning that they don't have to go for, like, I was thinking, okay, if you're Landorus, at least you have to either just like go for Rock Slides, which don't do much. I'll still play it out this turn, but I think Earth Power in a close combat twice should just be enough for a knockout. My opponent played turn 1 really nicely as well, right? Because if they had actually maxed, for example, and targeted Venusaur, then maybe Press Blitz just knocks out the Coalossal anyway, and then you just lose your max immediately. And here I was like forced to switch out the Groudon to deal with the potential Dragapult max. Yeah, so then like the question I always ask is how can I like lead better, basically. So much close combat does here. Oh my gosh, that's just so much. And this is why Zacian's naturally like a nice partner for these Sun teams, right? Because, or sorry, for these Coalossal teams, because normally you're going to struggle into Sun compositions. Yeah, and like this is a game in which my opponent just made sure I didn't get anything out of my Dynamax, so kudos to them. So like the one play I think we could have done better was maybe maxing Landorus immediately, or sorry, maxing Groudon. But the thing is, imagine if we max Groudon, well then Zacian just comes out and can Behemoth Blade us for a 1-hit KO. So, yeah. I think it's hard to play this matchup safely, and like even with knowledge that they're Choice Scarf here, I don't really like see a very clear path to victory. Like they can always just lead Dragapult Coalossal, and even knowing it's Choice Scarf, I'm not sure how I could really deviate like significantly. Because like Charizard, we never want to lead into that. Regieleki is interesting because of Electro Whip, and it can like theoretically Dynamax and then max Lightning into Coalossal as well. I could lead like Insane Groudon, but that just doesn't feel like it gets any value either. Maybe conserve Venusaur for the back, because then Venusaur is like at least somewhat effective as a max sweeper into Zacian and Landorus. So like you'd be leading Landorus or Groudon plus like Umbreon maybe, and then we'd even protect the Groudon and then like yawn into Coalossal turn 1, and then go from there. That's like the best game plan I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, realistically, it's just not a super easy matchup when they have Choice Scarf. Without Choice Scarf, it's a completely different game, right? Because then the Venusaur just outspeeds either Pokemon and can pressure with Sleep Powder. But that's exactly why you'd want to use Choice Scarf Dragapult, so that you hard win kind of against any combination of Sun leads that you might go into. So yeah, Coalossal continues to be really strong, especially when paired with Zacian, and that was just great execution by my opponent. So let's look for one more. All right, last one of the day, and it's another Sun team with Zacian. I've got Venu, Venusaur, Rotom, Landorus, and Grimm. I think Rotom is the main issue here, and our best bet would be to max Groudon into it, but truthfully, I think like both the last team and this team have pretty favorable matchups into us, which is good, right? I think like part of winning in a format is being able to consistently counter the top team compositions, and the team that Leonardo used has just truly, you know, been one of the best teams just in general, as well as a super strong Sun team, right? Like I think it's the strongest Sun team that I've tried in Series 11 recently. So I think our opponent definitely has a favorable matchup because Landorus is a good max option, Rotom's a good max option, Venu's a good max option. It's mainly going to be Venu like threatening with Sleep Powder that scares me the most. I don't love leading my Venu here, just because like the Landorus and Rotom both being max options is really scary. But I don't know what the best lead is here, honestly. I like Umbreon for disruption because I think Yawn in general is good here. I think I like Incin, Groudon in the back. I feel like Groudon should probably be the max option, but you have to watch out for so much here, which is scary. And then it's between Charizard and Venusaur. Charizard for Wildfire is really nice. But I honestly think I want to max Groudon here, and so I'm going to bring Venusaur instead because it's better as like a non-max option. Because I can Sleep Powder with it. But this one's tricky because like Regieleki is not good into Landorus. It's not really good into Rotom-H either. And the speed drops aren't important enough for me to justify bringing it. So they're going to go Rotom and Grimmsnarl. Okay, I think I'm generally okay with this because Umbreon can just go for a turn 1 Yawn onto the Rotom. Both of these Pokemon don't really have great access to recovery either, so like even if you set up Light Screen, it's not the end of the world for us. I think turn 1 I'm just going to go for Yawn onto Rotom, which I can see in Nasty Plotting. And then just Fake Out into Grimm for now. See where we go from here. If you have these two, surely you have Zacian in the third. So then the question is, like, what is the fourth? It could be Landorus. It could be Venusaur or Torkoal. Out of those, I expect Venusaur the most, maybe. Yeah, they go for Nasty Plot. I'm fine with that. Because after Yawn, it's like now your Rotom can't Dynamax. You either switch out or you stay in and then take the sleep. Which would not be terrible for us. So I expect Rotom to switch out here, truthfully, and then like Grimmsnarl will go for a Spirit Break. I don't really want to switch in for a Spirit Break. But I think I'm willing to go for another Yawn here, and then U-turn out into Grim. And if Rotom stays in, great. They're gonna Max Lightning. Like, the thing about Max Lightning is that it doesn't... setting up the terrain doesn't help. Because Rotom's not grounded. Unless it's like... some... yeah, Rotom with, I don't know, you know, an item to allow it to be grounded. Or it's Lumberry. Oh, both of those would be really wild, though. Okay, Umbreon takes that. I mean, this is really good if they can't prevent the sleep this turn. So, all eyes are on that right now. Okay, we're going to get U-turn off. I'm just assuming Grimmsnarl is going to go for Spirit Break here. I think I just bring out Groudon here right now. I think the only scary thing is if Rotom gets a one-turn wait, because I don't think a Max Rockfall is KOing Dynamax Rotom right now. Assuming they're Spirit Breaking into Umbreon, then I also miss out on an opportunity to either click Moonlight or Snarl this turn, but I think expecting Rotom to switch out is not like a reasonable assumption. They do go for Spirit Break. Oh my gosh, Umbreon hangs on from that. I mean, does Rotom have a Lum or a Chesto or something here? Because otherwise... them setting up Electric Terrain doesn't actually work for preventing sleep because Rotom's not grounded. Oh my gosh, they're actually Chesto Berry Rotom Heat. What? That's a first. I don't think I've ever... is it like Chesto Rest, or is that literally just to counter Yawn Umbreon? With Rest, it would make a little bit more sense to me. Wow. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna Moonlight and switch out into Instant here, I think. Actually, I'd rather just Yawn again, ideally. No, but if we Moonlight... Okay, yeah. I'm fine with Yawn and switch into Instant. That stalls out another turn Dynamax. The only thing is now, with I might actually be forced to click Sleep Powder with Venusaur. And I really don't like relying on Sleep Powder typically, but based off how this early game played out, I think I kind of need to. Chesto Rotom, though. What a tech. Okay, Grim switches out. That's fine. To Landorus. I'm trying to intimidate Groudon there. Ideally, they just try to Flare, but Lightning into Umbreon, or Flare into Umbreon is like the safer play for them to make here. So let's see what they opted for. It's going to be Flare. Okay, into the Groudon's not good. That's very good for us now, actually, because it means that your Rotom is like more likely than not going to want to switch out. And if you don't switch out, that's fine by me. I'd rather prefer them to not switch out, but the thing is now I can go for a Moonlight to heal all the way back up and go for Fake Out into Landorus. So we've done a pretty good job stalling out the Dynamax, all things considered, even with the Chesto surprise. Yeah, I don't think I've seen Chesto Rotom in series, in Sword and Shield, really, at all? Maybe we've run into it before, but it is certainly a surprise. Really cool tech, though, right? Like, you can see how we run into some smart ways to deal with the team that we're using here, and it gives, you know, a significant leg up to my opponent that way. That's interesting. They end up flaring the Incineroar slot, so they actually don't pick up a knockout onto it, and they didn't target the Umbreon. Meaning that with Moonlight, I'm going to heal all the way back up, and now your Rotom's going to fall asleep, and Dynamax is over. So, I mean, I'm very surprised about that, but I'll gladly take it. And this is one of the reasons why Umbreon is so effective in this format, right? It is incredible as a kind of way to stall out Dynamax. It's things like that, and, you know, for example, like Substitute on something like Zacian, which we had previously featured, that just are super, super handy in scenarios like this. So, I'm going to go for a Snarl here. The question is whether or not I value conserving Incineroar right now, and given that my opponent's restricted to Zacian, you would think so, but the awkward thing here is if I switch Instant out into Groudon and just take an Earthquake, I don't love that, honestly. So I think here I'd actually rather just give up Instant. Oh, U-turn out in case they like switch Landorus out here. But I think the fact that we managed to weather the storm and stall out their Dynamax is really good. And they're actually going to pivot Landorus out into Zacian. Okay. I feel like that's a really risky switch, but I'll gladly take it because now I just get a free switch in. It's still really tricky, though. Like, So part of the question right now is who do I want to Dynamax, right? That's also a little bit frustrating. If I went for Flare Blitz on a Landorus, that's probably just game over right there and then. If I bring in Groudon, they can just Behemoth Blade the Groudon as well as Overheat into it, which is really scary. Venusaur will have a max Flare into Zacian. So I lean towards that. Okay. I just don't know if Max Flare is a guaranteed one-shot onto Zacian. You would think so. You would think so. Like, I've seen Life Orb Maractus Weather Ball one-shot Zacian. So, if it's not a KO, then that's yikes. Okay, I think I'm going to go for the Max Flare onto Zacian right now. Even if they protect and Rotom wakes up or Focus Sash, so it's not the end of the world. I'm going to go for another Snarl, and I'm going to Max, and I'm going to Flare. I could go for Quake, but I really don't think Quake's a KO here. Zacian could protect, but the thing is, what is Rotom going to do? It will try to wake up and overheat Venusaur, and that's fine, because we have Focus Sash. I guess the only issue here is if Zacian does protect this turn, then how am I really going to get Vine Lash off? So I think if Rotom takes another turn of sleep here, it's only taken one turn so far, right? So it can take another turn or even 2 more turns. It puts us in a really, really good spot. The question is whether or not it takes this another turn, and whether or not Zacian protects here. Because if you're expecting to just survive the turn, maybe you're just willing to attack. So it could have been worth it to go for Vine Lash instead, but it's just a little bit risky because it won't KO, and if they wake up, then they could actually just pick up a knockout onto my max Pokemon here. Okay, it does go for Protect. So this is where, yeah, it's a big question as to whether or not Rotom wakes up this turn, in my opinion. Because, like, ideally want to go for Vine Lash, right? It's not really much damage into Zacian, though, which is concerning. Okay, Rotom does stay asleep for another turn, which is fortunate for us. Now I get Snarl off. So then now, because Rotom did stay asleep for another turn, I think I might be willing to just go for... Also, Sun is over now, right? So... Huh, it's actually interesting, because... I'd have to switch out into Groudon to get Max Flare. But I think it's fine to switch Umbreon out into Groudon and just go for the Flare. Because now, with Rotom taking that second turn of sleep, it's a lot easier for me to get Vine Lash off and get maximum value out of it. Because if they had woken up there, then this next turn would be awkward, where it's like, okay, I'd have to switch into Groudon to outspeed, and then it's like, if I wanted Vine Lash, I'd have to give up actually knocking out Zacian. But I think switching out here is fine. If I'm my opponent, I'm probably switching the Zacian out, but I'm also okay with that. Rotom being down to neutral now is good, because I don't think an Overheat's KOing the Groudon. And if you can't KO the Groudon, that's really important. So Rotom has been in use since, though, and yeah, Chesto, once again, so interesting. I also have to consider Ally Switch, but I really don't think you're running Chesto, Nasty Plot, and Ally Switch. Like, I think Rotom is Rest, personally, but I can't confirm that yet, obviously. Okay. Now, I did miss out on opportunities to go for Max Quake, right? I actually could be at +2 special defense with Venusaur right now, rather than neutral, but I just wanted to guarantee the KO. And unfortunately for them, Rotom actually takes a third turn of sleep, so yeah. We had favorable rolls here. I think 1 or 2 turns would be fine. 3 turns just makes it so tough for them now. So, yeah, that was definitely kind of a lucky draw. Okay, Grim comes out. So now it's just a free Vine Lash, I think, onto the Grimmsnarl slot. And honestly, I think I'm willing to just stay in with Groudon here and Rock Slide. Actually, you know what they could do? They could Fake Tears and, like, Overheat Groudon here. And I don't think Umbreon's super essential for us right now, whereas Groudon's pretty valuable in the late game. So I actually am going to switch out and go for the Vine Lash on a Grim here. Because the thing is, I don't see a reason to just give up Groudon and let it get nuked for no reason, right? Groudon's really good in this late game. Umbreon is also really good, but Umbreon can, you know, block any Fake Tears from Grimmsnarl because it's Dark type, and Prankster attacks don't work on Dark types. Prankster boosted attacks don't work on Dark types. So I could avoid a potential Fake Tears, right? Now, I think the odds of them having Fake Tears here is probably pretty slim, but I just think Groudon's more valuable damage-wise in this late game. And they just go for Reflect, no problem. Okay. We definitely ran into some surprises today, though. I mean, there was like Rain Dance Regieleki in the first one, Choice Scarf Dragapult in this second game, and then in this one, okay, they are going to overheat into Venusaur. That's actually a really big deal, though, because you just committed -2 special attack, right? And that means the Groudon now is in a really nice spot for the late game, right? So that's the other thing. Once Rotom's Dynamax is over, you have to rely on overheat, meaning that you have to give up your boosts, right? And we already brought them down to neutral, so now they're at -2, and we have maximum value from Vine Lash in this end game. So we're in a really good spot. The one thing to consider with Rotom, or the two things to consider, is one, potential rest. Doesn't everything get rest more or less? I've never seen that before. And potential ally switch as well. But I think even if I have ally switch in this spot, it's fine. I'm down to actually just foul play the Landorus slot and Leaf Storm it, I think. Because if Landorus faints, then we just have a clear path to victory against Rotom. Rotom can nasty plot here to get itself back to neutral, but that's fine. Wow, they actually have ally switch. Oh my gosh, okay. So it's ally switch, nasty plot, overheat. I don't think it has rest then. Interesting. But that's really not enough to save them here, just because like Leaf Storm and foul play is nice damage. And then I can just bring it instant and click Fake Out onto the Rotom. I mean, maybe Rotom... Actually, it did go for Max Flare onto Instant. No, it went for Thunderbolt earlier. Yeah. So we already know its full moveset. I was just thinking, is there like any chance that it's not running Thunderbolt for some reason? But we already saw Max Lightning. So then the decision to max Rotom actually makes a lot of sense here, but now we can just bring in Instant, we'll get it Intimidate off, Fake Out into the Vine Lash will KO Rotom, and then Umbreon can just yawn into... Actually, should I bother yawning here? Because it could be Lum on Landorus and then Chesto on Rotom. That would be really interesting. Good thing we didn't lead like Venusaur and just try to go into that on turn 1 though, because I think like with Venusaur, I like generally feel less confident leading it because I normally assume safety goggles and everything until I see otherwise. So I'm just going to yawn into the Landorus slot here and then Fake Out into Rotom. And Landorus honestly is never going to win a 1v1 against Umbreon unless it's either Swords Dance, which I guess in Series 11 isn't exactly super wild, or you crit a superpower. But Umbreon has a very, very favorable matchup in a Landorus as long as it's not Swords Dance, because you can just survive as superpower or EQ, heal back all the damage with Moonlight, and then just disrupt with Yawn and Foul Play. So, yeah. We definitely had a more favorable sleep roll in this game, which made it a lot easier to play. Like, I think, like, because they took either 2 or 3 turns of sleep, like, we just didn't have to make, like, too many hard decisions, because, like, Flare and Zacian was super safe, and then it just allowed us to make, like, the couple turns with Rotom, or into Rotom Zacian were just, we didn't have to go for any wild predictions, right? I think, like, the turn Zacian protected was fairly obvious, so I could have risked it and just gone for, like, a Vine Lash immediately onto, like, the Rotom slot. And then that would put us in a really good spot because then the Rotom's just getting chipped away turn by turn by turn. But I didn't really want to make an aggressive read and have it fail, or like then the Zacian just Behemoth Blades us, and that would be really bad. And this is once again the game of or the value of late game Vine Lash, where my opponent only has non-max mons at this point. So like we were able to knock out Rotom effectively through a Vine Lash damage, which was really sweet. And I think the key thing was that they did end up Dynamaxing it even after, and then like I was able to get that second Yawn off. And then the Flare into Instant rather than targeting Umbreon that turn, I think just made the game a lot harder for them to win. So I think they were just making a read there, but yeah, it was one in which like I think I had little incentive to actually switch out there. So Lando goes for Earthquake. I actually should have always protected Groudon there just because we knew we were getting a... Yeah, I made my moves a little fast here. Like, it's technically more optimal to go for Moonlight into Protect just because Landorus is going to fall asleep. But I figured, like, even if you EQ double crit, I think we would survive because these Pokemon are so defensive, honestly. So, yeah. I think today's episode highlights, though, how players are now teching in to beat some teams, right? And I think this is absolutely what you should be doing if you're looking to, climb consistently, because you're going to run into Sun, you're going to run into this team a lot, so it's smart to have some surprises up your sleeve. So whether it be Rain Dance Regieleki or Choice Scarf Dragapult with Coalossal, or the Chesto Berry Rotom, which I think is super, super interesting. They all can go a long way in helping in the matchup. I think for us it was helpful to not get baited into Venusaur too much. That's like when I play with Sun, I'm also like always really, really careful about like prioritizing Venusaur just because it's a Pokemon that can be really, really volatile, especially if you like go for Sleep Powder turn 1 and miss. Like, you not only give up potential a lot of damage, and you might give up just like what is a really valuable max option. So that's always one thing to keep in mind. But it's gonna be it for this one. So thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.